can act here, kind of.
Yeah!
It's a lot longer than what I'm letting on, so if some things don't make sense, please bear with me. Hey, how's it going? So, these are some things that are on my mind today, and I list them in no specific order of importance or relevance. They're just kind of around up here, just looping. 1. Thousands of people go missing every year and are never recovered. Isn't that interesting? That phrase, I mean. Never recovered. It's an odd way of talking about a human, don't you think? I mean, a human you want to, I don't know, embrace? Discover? I don't know, I'm still working out this whole recover thing. I mean, you want to recover a pair of eyeglasses, your favorite sweater, a prosthetic leg, for example. But, I don't know. I'm still working it out, this whole recover thing. And I heard it from an official source, too, from someone who actually says these kinds of things for a living. I'm so terribly sorry, Mr. Waters, but we're still unable to recover your friend. Recover him? I'm sorry, is he a fossil? 2. Did you know that whales have a brain that is 4 times the size of ours? Oh yeah, they have a cerebral cortex that is 4 times the size of ours. Do you know what the cerebral cortex actually does? Don't answer that, anyone, if you really do know. It's just rhetorical. The cerebral cortex is the thinking part of the brain, the feeling part. The part that basically gives us the ability to communicate, create civilizations, etc. Isn't it cool? Whales have that. And what are the whales doing? As I'm sure you're wondering, as I was when I heard this. Just what the heck are they doing with these massive cerebral cortexes? It turns out, nobody knows. Yeah, I was on a whale watching trip recently, and according to this whale expert, when all of us wanted naturally to know what the whales were doing with all this extra intelligence, oh, nobody knows that, they say. The whale experts. 3. I haven't washed my hair in 2 weeks. And I'm starting to wonder just what is going to come of this. It's a little greasy, a little itchy, but I think I like it. I'm not really one to get too fussed about my appearance. I mean, if I feel like putting on lotion and sporting cologne and whatever, I will, but if not, no big deal. I don't really have a beauty regime. It's more of a beauty democracy, really. Makes life in the morning easier, this laissez-faire attitude about grooming. And it is kind of artfully dirty looking, don't you think? Like all those kids in Brooklyn. I have a feeling there is a fine line between hip and homeless. But, so this leads me to the thought that, am I going to develop dreadlocks? And it's when I think this that I have the realization that I don't know how one actually acquires dreadlocks. That's when I discover this, and I begin to laugh at my own inane musings, that I think, oh my god, I have to call Brian, because if anyone is going to know the answer to this and all my other retarded questions, it's Brian. But then I remember, and it hits me like a swift knife right through the center of my body that I can't ask Brian. No, and it's because of Brian that I've stopped washing my hair to begin with. No, I can't ask Brian because they haven't recovered him yet. The last trip we took together was a whale watching trip with his family. And I mentioned the part about his family because it was very significant, because for a number of years, they didn't speak to him. He came out of the closet soon after college, and his family basically just said, "Later, dude." They didn't actually say that. I'm fairly certain they didn't say anything as remotely as nice sounding as that. But one day, because it's just the type of guy Brian is, he calls them up. And he tells them that he's in love and he's so happy, and he's met this guy, James. That's me. And so he calls them up and he wants them to meet me. And they do. They come out and we all take this whale watching trip because he's got these twin brothers that love whales and this little sister who's never seen the ocean because they're all from Nebraska, and it's all very after-school special. But also really beautiful, because these landlocked Nebraskans are really digging deep to change their preconceived notions about what is love and what is a man and all that stuff. It happened a couple of weeks after we got back from the trip, an average Thursday. We'd had dinner together the night before. I talked to him on the phone that morning, but he never made it back to his apartment that night. How does this happen? How does a person just go missing? Just poof, gone in broad daylight. Just disappear with no apparent trace. The police tell me this happens more than we know about. And without any evidence or clues, it's very difficult to think of where he might be. Could have been the mafia, anything. He could have even disappeared on purpose. And I don't think Brian would do this. But I would prefer to think that he did that than something else happening. I retrace his steps every day. He rented a movie. The guy from the Blockbuster says he thinks it was Mrs. Miniver. So I retrace his steps. I go from his office to the Blockbuster to his apartment. Office, Blockbuster, apartment. Sometimes I vary a stop at the grocery store or the pharmacy, anywhere he might have likely gone. Nothing. There is no danger. It's the West Village. The only thing mildly threatening is how gentrified it all is. Do you know why whales breach? Jump out of the water, thrusting their whole bodies into the air? Well, if you do, you should move to the San Juan Islands and become a whale expert, because no one knows why they do this. Yeah, no one knows why they breach. No one knows what they're doing with these massive cerebral cortexes. No one knows what the whales are saying to one another. Oh yeah, the guys on the boats, they got these real nifty contraptions. They stick in the water like big microphones. And they hold up these headphones and they say, "Do you want to hear the whales talking to one another?" We're all like, "Yeah, of course." So we hear the whales talking in this whistling and chirping sort of way. "Well, what are they saying?" one of us asks. "Oh, nobody knows that," they say. I'm like, "What?" There are many things that are so much more difficult that have been achieved and discovered throughout history, right? And yes, I'm sure it would be difficult, but you don't just throw your money and throw your hands up in front of a group of people that pay good money to learn from you and say, "Oh, well, we don't know. I'm sorry. That is unacceptable. Get in the water," you know what I'm saying? Get down there and learn their fucking language. So the police are looking. His family is looking. And I'm looking. And I'd really appreciate it if you would look now too. And I don't know why. I guess it's because it makes as much sense as the rest of it does. But I feel like if I could find this whale, one that Brian and I were looking at. It's off in the distance, slicing gracefully through the waters. Brian had just nudged me and quietly said, "Look." And we did. We looked at our whale for a good long time. I feel like if I could find that whale, maybe it would know where Brian is. Because whales are really, really smart. It's tall, lanky, strawberry blonde hair. Kind of looks like a Midwestern hayseed. Don't tell him I said that. Just tell him I'm looking for him. Tell him James is looking for him. Tell him I'm following that way.